In 1942, in the midst of World War II, strange stories began weaving from the threads of fate in the remote villages of Burma. While the Japanese army occupied this Southeast Asian country, local residents fought for survival amid daily bombings and military oppression. No one suspected then that years later, the birth of a little girl would stir up the world of reincarnation research and raise questions that would lead to our deepest secrets about the nature of consciousness. Tin Aung Myo's story began in the village of Htwe in Upper Burma, where due to the proximity of the railway station, Allied forces regularly bombed Japanese supply lines. The villagers hid in the forests during the day, only daring to return to their homes at night. This was the hellish environment where a Burmese street food vendor, Tin, befriended a stocky Japanese field cook who often worked bare-chested. An unexpected connection formed between these two people from different cultures. Tin and the Japanese soldier exchanged recipes, discussed the delicacies of Burmese and Japanese cuisine, and built a human relationship amid the horrors of war. No one would have thought that this acquaintance would return decades later in the most extraordinary form. In the spring of 1945, when Japanese troops had already withdrawn from Burma, the Allied Air Force attacked enemy forces more intensively. One day, when the Japanese cook was preparing food for himself near firewood by an acacia tree, he suddenly heard buzzing from the sky. The sound grew stronger, and he soon recognized it. Allied fighter planes were approaching. In shorts and shirtless, he ran toward cover, but it was too late. The burst fired from the twin-tailed aircraft hit him, and the bullet finished him off in the groin. The Japanese soldier died instantly. 8 years later, in early 1953, Tin became pregnant with her fourth child. The pregnancy proceeded normally, with only one strange thing. She constantly had the same dream. In her dream, the long-vanished Japanese cook appeared before her and told her that he would return and live with her. This dream returned so many times that the woman began to think about it anxiously. On December 26, 1953, Tin Aung Myo was born. The little girl was perfect, with only one small detail standing out. A thumb-sized, dark birthmark adorned her groin. The parents did not attribute special significance to this mark, but over the years it became clear that this was just the beginning. As Tin Aung Myo grew, she began to show strange behavior. At 4 years old, when walking with her father, an airplane flew overhead. The little girl suddenly began to cry and panic. "I want to go home! I want to go home!" she shouted, but could not explain what this meant to her. From that day on, she cried every time a plane flew over the village. The father, Ai Mong, tried to calm his daughter, explaining that the war was over and airplanes no longer posed a threat. But Ma only said, "I'm afraid they will shoot me." This was particularly strange, since the little girl had never experienced war events. She was born in 1953, well after the war's end. Tin Aung Myo gradually began to say more detailed things. She claimed she wanted to return to Japan and that she missed her home there. She spoke about being a soldier in her previous life and being killed by machine gun fire from a low-flying aircraft. These claims became increasingly detailed as the little girl grew. Ma showed special knowledge about airplanes. She said that the machine that killed her in her previous life had 2 tails. It later turned out that this was probably a Lockheed P-38 Lightning, which the Allies indeed used in the Burma campaign. This detail was so specific that a small child could hardly have known about it naturally. The girl's behavior also became increasingly strange. She firmly refused to wear girlish clothes and was only willing to dress in boys' clothing. When her mother tried to dress her in women's clothes, Ma became angry and threw the garments aside, saying they gave her headaches or irritated her skin. At 11 years old, she even dropped out of school because she was unwilling to obey the rule that she had to dress as a girl. Ma's family initially did not know what to think of these strange habits. The little girl only played with boys and especially loved playing soldier. She asked her parents for toy weapons, which was extremely unusual for a Burmese girl. She constantly talked about wanting to be a soldier when she grew up. The cultural context made these behavioral patterns particularly significant. In Burma, both men and women wear long yai, an ankle-length garment, but the women's versions are usually floral patterned or solid-colored, while men wear checkered patterns and tie them differently at the waist. Men wear short hair while women wear it long. Ma chose the masculine style in all these details. If you've been interested in this fascinating story so far, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss further reincarnation cases and spiritual content. Now let's continue with Ma Tin Aung Myo's incredible story. As Ma grew older, her memories became increasingly detailed. She said that in her previous life she came from northern Japan, had 5 children with the eldest being a boy, and served as a field cook in the Japanese army. She had her own small shop in Japan before being drafted into the army. Ma could precisely describe the circumstances of her death. She remembered wearing short pants, having no shirt on, and being by a pile of firewood near an acacia tree. An Allied aircraft spotted her and attacked with machine guns. When she ran toward cover, a bullet hit her in the groin, killing her instantly. Dr. Ian Stevenson, a researcher at the University of Virginia who devoted decades to investigating reincarnation cases, first heard about Ma Tin Aung Myo's case in 1972. A Burmese colleague told him this unusual story, and Stevenson immediately became interested in it. This case contained all the elements the scientist needed for thorough research. Stevenson interviewed Ma about her memories 3 times between 1972 and 1975. During the meetings, it became clear that the girl not only remembered her previous life, but her personality also reflected it. Ma told Stevenson that she didn't own a single piece of women's clothing and proudly declared that she would never marry a man. "You can kill me in any way," Ma told Stevenson, "but with one condition, that I can be reborn as a boy." This statement deeply shook the researcher, who saw how seriously the girl meant what she said. Ma's behavior showed numerous additional peculiarities. She didn't like Burma's hot climate and complained about spicy foods. She preferred sweetly spiced curries and in childhood loved eating semi-raw fish. All of these pointed to typically Japanese tastes, not Burmese ones. Her family often heard Ma mumbling incomprehensible words to herself or speaking with other children in a language they didn't understand. Although it couldn't be definitively identified whether she was speaking Japanese, the phenomenon coincided with what researchers call xenoglossy, knowledge of a language from a previous life. Ma's family initially didn't know how to relate to their daughter's claims. Although belief in reincarnation is accepted in Burmese culture, Ma's case was special because it involved the reincarnation of an oppressive occupying soldier. Family members often called Ma just the Japanese guy, indicating their mixed feelings. Dr. Stevenson conducted a thorough examination of Ma's birthmark. In his previous research, he had discovered that in cases where someone died from traumatic injury, such as gunshots or stab wounds, a birthmark often appears in the same location in the next incarnation. In Ma's case, the groin birthmark exactly corresponded to the place where the Japanese soldier was allegedly wounded. The researcher considered it particularly important to investigate whether Ma's family could have somehow obtained information about the Japanese soldier. However, thorough investigation ruled out this possibility. Ma's family had no connection with other Japanese, and during the war, Da I Tin was only in contact with that one cook. According to Stevenson, Ma's case was one of the most convincing examples that consciousness can survive the death of the body and be reborn in a new body. The researcher stated about it, "This girl knows such details about a foreign soldier's life that would have been impossible to learn under normal circumstances." Ma's case not only raises the possibility of reincarnation, but also shows what deep marks war leaves on consciousness. The Japanese soldier's brutality and the suffering he caused perhaps returned as a karmic learning opportunity. The oppressor was now reborn in the culture of the oppressed. Dr. Satwant Pasricha, an Indian psychologist who also examined similar cases, said about Ma's story, "This case exceeds all known scientific explanations. The girl's knowledge is so deep and detailed that it's difficult to explain through normal means." In adulthood, Ma continued to cling to her masculine identity. At 28 years old, when Stevenson last heard about her, she was living in another village with another woman. She continued to behave masculinely and never married a man. Researchers observed that in Ma's case, the reincarnation memories did not fade to the extent seen in other children. This might be attributed to the traumatic death leaving such a deep mark on consciousness that the memories remained stronger. Dr. Jim Tucker, who continued Stevenson's work, says Ma's case is special because it shows that during reincarnation, not only memories but also deeper personality traits can be transferred from one life to another. When a Burmese girl behaves like a Japanese soldier and knows details she could never have learned, it poses a serious challenge to the materialist worldview, says Tucker. Ma's case also shows what impact reincarnation memories can have on a person's entire life. The girl could never fully integrate into Burmese society because she carried memories of another culture within her. This was not only interesting for researchers, but also posed a serious life management challenge for Ma. The local community received Ma's special status with mixed feelings. Some believed that she was truly the reincarnation of a Japanese soldier, while others approached it skeptically. During the military dictatorship, it was particularly dangerous to make such claims because due to the political atmosphere, anyone who mentioned Japanese connections could fall under suspicion. During Stevenson's research, it also came to light that Ma was not a unique case in Burma. The researcher and his colleague Jürgen Kiel published a study in 1930 about 24 Burmese children who all claimed to be reincarnations of Japanese soldiers killed during World War II. These children showed similar behavioral patterns. They didn't like the hot climate, were averse to spicy foods, and often displayed personality traits that were not characteristic of Burmese culture. According to Dr. Stevenson and Kiel, these cases present a third element of personality that operates beyond genetics and environmental influences. One of the most important lessons from Ma's case is that consciousness may be much more complex than modern neurology assumes. If these memories truly originate from a previous life, it could revolutionize science and our understanding of human nature. Dr. Bruce Grayson, professor of psychiatry at the University of Virginia, says, Ma's case and similar cases force us to rethink what we know about the nature of consciousness. If consciousness can truly survive the death of the body, it would change medicine. Modern quantum physics opens new perspectives for understanding reincarnation cases. Dr. Stuart Hameroff says that consciousness is not limited to the brain, and at the quantum level, processes occur that could enable the preservation of information even after the death of the physical body. Tin Aung Myo's case also shows how deep human connections can be. The friendship that developed between the Japanese soldier and Dao I Tin probably played a role in the soldier's soul returning to the very family with whom he had been connected in his previous life. This phenomenon can often be observed in reincarnation cases. The soul usually reincarnates into an environment where there is some previous connection. According to Stevenson's research, this is not coincidental, but points to a deeper spiritual law. Critics of reincarnation research naturally question these cases. Philosopher Paul Edwards, for example, claimed that these cases do not prove the existence of reincarnation, only that there are phenomena we do not yet understand. Skeptics often argue that families can unconsciously influence children, or that the cultural environment suggests these memories to them. However, in Ma's case, Stevenson's thorough investigation ruled out these possibilities. Dr. Pasricha explains this phenomenon thus. When a child knows such detailed information about a foreign culture with which she has never come into contact, and displays behavior that is completely alien to her own environment, it is difficult to explain through normal psychological processes. If you enjoyed Tin Aung Myo's fascinating story, then subscribe to the channel and press the like button. Share this video with those who are interested in the topic of reincarnation. Write in the comments what you think about this case. Do you believe that Ma was truly the reincarnation of a Japanese soldier? Or do you have another explanation? Ma's case represents not only scientific interest, but also a deeply human story. A girl who never felt at home in the body and culture into which she was born, and who fought throughout her life to live authentically. This struggle resonates with many people who also feel they don't fit into the roles assigned to them. The question of gender identity is particularly relevant in Ma's case. According to modern psychology, transgenderism and other gender identity disorders can be partly explained by the soul being born into a body of a different gender. Ma's case may be an early example of this phenomenon. Dr. Tucker formulates this as follows. If consciousness is truly independent of the body, then it is logical that a soul with male consciousness can also be born into a female body. This can give new perspective to questions of gender identity. Ma's story also shows how deeply war can influence the soul. The Japanese soldier's brutality and violence perhaps became part of a karmic learning process when he had to be reborn in a female body in a culture he had previously oppressed. This perspective can give hope to those who feel that the sufferings experienced in life have deeper meaning. According to Ma's case, suffering is not in vain, but can be part of the soul's development. The scientific community is still divided regarding Ma's case and similar reincarnation stories. Some researchers believe they provide evidence for the survival of consciousness, while others remain skeptical. Modern brain research provides new tools for examining reincarnation cases. fMRI and other imaging procedures can help understand how the brain functions in children who claim to have reincarnation memories. Dr. Pim van Lommel, a Dutch cardiologist specializing in near-death experience research, says, "Consciousness is much more than what the brain produces. Ma's case and similar stories suggest that consciousness has an aspect that survives the death of the body." Tin Aung Myo's story ultimately shows us that human existence is much more mysterious and complex than the materialist worldview suggests. Whether we believe in reincarnation or not, cases like Ma's compel us to approach the great questions of consciousness and death with an open mind. Reincarnation research continues, and Tin Aung Myo's case remains one of the most convincing examples that consciousness can survive the death of the body. This story not only reveals secrets of the past, but also points the way to future possibilities. In Dr. Tucker's closing words, Ma's case reminds us that we still have much to learn about human consciousness. This girl may be a window into a reality we don't yet fully understand, but which may be crucial to understanding human nature. At the end of the story, Ma Tin Aung Myo lived the life she wanted, with masculine identity, living with another woman, far from the expectations society had set for her. Perhaps this was the most important lesson from the entire case: the search for authentic life, regardless of what others expect from us. Ma's case continues to inspire researchers and spiritual seekers alike. This story reminds us that human consciousness may be much larger and more mysterious than we imagine, and that death may not be the final boundary, but merely a transition in a longer journey.